Hey, this is Mark A. Altman, and if you're a fan of this podcast, you already know the 50-year mission is definitive oral history of Star Trek, and Secrets of the Force will tell you everything you want to know about the history of Star Wars. But what you probably don't know is Ed Gross and I have a new book coming out this July. They Shouldn't Have Killed This Dog, the complete, uncensored, ass-kicking oral history of John Wick, Gun Fu, and the new age of action. Coming from St. Martin's in hardcover, digital, and audio. You can order it today. Hey, this is Mark A. Altman.
This is DAREN DOCHTERMAN, and we are the Inglorious Trexperts.
I thought it was a classic femme fatale. Just so much fun.
Like that Shakespearean lace in your acting.
I said, Gene, what do you want from this character?
I want you to take the character and make it your own.
I had a good time on the film.
On day one, the movie was already $15 million over budget.
We started this movie without an ending. That's like painting yourself into a corner.
I don't think we've ever had a Star Trek captain on our show.
Being, as you said, number one on the call sheet, it is a producer's position if you're going to take it seriously. I was so glad they didn't cast me as Lorca.
You famously wrote that script in 12 days.
On one level, I wrote the script, and on another level, the story was written by everybody and his brother.
New episodes every Saturday, wherever you listen to podcasts, or download the Electric Now app. Keep on trekking. Ingloriously, of course. Inglorious Trexperts, the only podcast for fans with a life, is available every Friday, wherever you listen to podcasts, and on the free Electric Now app. Download it today.
Hello and welcome to Best Movies Never Made, a podcast where we talk about interesting and infamous movies that never made it to or through production. Most of the time, the movies you're trying to make don't get made.
Like 4 of them may happen, 1 of them may happen, none of them may happen, and I'll be attached to 3 more things by end of summer.
Turn the script into something resembling like Unforgiven with Conan.
Yeah.
Sadly, the rights expired and the whole thing just like went away overnight.
New episodes will be available every other Monday. We won't see you at the movies.
Best Movies Never Made, as featured in Entertainment Weekly, is available wherever you listen to podcasts and on the free Electric Now app. Hey, this is Mark A. Altman, and this is the 4:30 movie, and it's mooning over Audrey Week, a week of Audrey Hepburn films. And here to moon the most, that doesn't sound right at all, is Mr. Monday, Steve Melching.
I can't wait to dive into the career of the luminous Audrey Hepburn.
On Tuesday, DAREN R. DOCHTERMAN.
The R stands for hooray. No.
And on Wednesday,
really big shoe.
It's not, the A is not for Audrey. It's Ashley Edward Miller.
Mooning Audrey Hepburn is wrong, and it shouldn't be done.
And, of course, on Thursday, it's me, Mark A. Altman. Welcome to another Fantasy Theme Week. This week, it's devoted to the films of Audrey Hepburn. And I have to say, it's you know, I'm going to date myself a little. You know, back in high school, everyone had posters of Farrah Fawcett Majors. But then they got classy in college. They all had, especially the girls, all had Audrey Hepburn posters in their dorm rooms. You know, I probably had Shatner. I don't know, Humphrey Bogart. But they were everybody, everywhere you went. I remember even at IKEA, everything was like, you know, it was, I think people had no idea who she was, but they're like, oh, I'll get that. That looks like something that would look good in my dorm room. Anyway, now it's Taylor Swift and Megan Thee Stallion. But back then it was Audrey Hepburn, and we love Audrey. And we've done a couple of these weeks devoted to actors. And after the great thespians Arnold Schwarzenegger and Sylvester Stallone, we decided it was time to cleanse the palate, I guess.
And everyone should be happy to know that I do not have an Audrey Hepburn impersonation.
Oh, well,
really,
you know, I don't know if we should go ahead with the show then.
Really, I don't.
But I'm sure Darren can do impressions of several of her co-stars.
I'm sure you could do Mickey Rooney.
No.
You're not going to.
Her accent is actually very rusty. Her accent's actually very interesting because that mid-Atlantic accent is something that you have to learn. It was trained. It wasn't anything that ever actually existed in nature, in the wild, which is why it's
I think Logan Ramsay would disagree with you.
Steve, why was she so unique? Because, of course, the great comedic actresses like Carol Lombard, and Katharine Hepburn, who also obviously was great in drama. And then you had the luminous, sex pots like Rita Hayworth and Lana Turner. Audrey Hepburn was sophisticated. She was classy. She was, she projected an innocence and also an intelligence, radiated intelligence. And really, as I'm sure we get into it, a very diverse. She could do comedy, she could do drama, she could do melodrama, romance, thriller. I mean, it's really amazing. And, for people, maybe some of the younger listeners who aren't familiar with the oeuvre, hopefully they will seek out some of these films at the end of the show when we air them on the 4:30 movie. But Steve, tell us a little bit about Audrey Hepburn.
Well, Audrey Hepburn was someone who is classically trained. She was born in 1929 in Brussels and grew up in Belgium, England, and the Netherlands. And she helped the Dutch resistance during World War II. She helped raise money by putting on shows that would raise money for anti-Nazi causes, basically, to expel the Nazis from Europe during the war. And,
real denazification.
Yes.
Not fake denazification.
But she came up as a dancer, a ballet dancer, and a singer, and started training as an actress. She moved to London, where she started getting cast in small roles on the BBC until she was discovered one day and cast in the Broadway version of Gigi that ended up being a massive success on Broadway and on tour. And the great William Wyler, the director William Wyler, saw her in that and cast her in her first major motion picture role, which I'm sure we'll discuss, because she doesn't have a huge filmography, but she has a lot of classics in it. Yeah. She chose her projects very carefully.
She chose wisely.
Yeah.
Much like Indiana Jones and The Last Crusade, she chose wisely, and a lot of classics, which we'll find out.
She also became something of a fashion icon. To quote one of our favorite festival directors at Telluride, Peter Sellers, "She is fashion."
I hadn't thought about that in a long time. I remember when the late Peter Sellers, and of course, we're not talking about Dr. Strangelove. We're actually talking about the opera director, Peter Sellers. But he said that at Telluride, at least for us, rather infamously.
He was speaking about Catherine Deneuve, wasn't it?
Yeah.
But it equally applies to Audrey Hepburn, who has, as you said earlier, that this sort of warmth, this intelligence, and this sort of waifishness. She was just a really appealing screen personality.
Yeah, the other thing... sorry, go ahead, Darren.
She had the look of a knowledgeable innocent.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing I love about her, that makes her even greater. It was the same thing Roger Moore had. Very active in UNICEF and in Czech. Yeah, she carried a Walther PPK around with her. But they were very... They were very active, with UNICEF and with charities, and both were, I think, spokespeople for the UNICEF, and that was great because they took their fame and used it, for a very important cause. So that was even better. And in fact, later in her life, where she, for all intents and purposes, was retired, was pretty much devoted to her charitable causes. And then, she came back and did one last film, which I don't think will be on our list, but who knows? So I'm not going to mention it. But it was really a remarkable career. And we're going to talk about that remarkable career right now. As always, we're going to start on Monday with Steve Melching with his pick for Mooning Over Hepburn Week.
My Audrey Hepburn pick is perhaps a movie that's a little atypical for her. It's more of a late career film for her, when she was maybe experimenting a bit more with her roles, and it was more of an ensemble piece, but I think a really interesting film, and it's from 1976, Robin and Marian.
For over 6 centuries, the legend of Robin Hood and Maid Marian has inspired hundreds of ballads, books, operas, plays, and movies. And now, the legend becomes a love story. Columbia Pictures presents Sean Connery and Audrey Hepburn in Robin and Marian.
Go fight the sheriffs and the kings. I love you and you make me proud.
I thought the man was dead.
He's back in Sherwood.
Robin is back in Sherwood, I said. We're here to serve you, Robin. And fight against that king.
They're flocking to him in hundreds. He's become a legend. Have you ever tried to fight a legend?
To some, he was a hero who would bring them hope. To some, he was a common thief to be hunted down. To some, he was an enemy to be respected and feared. To Marian, the woman he loved, he was her man.
You're so beautiful.
Come and sit by me.
Sean Connery is Robin Hood. Robert Shaw is the Sheriff of Nottingham. Nicol Williamson is Little John. Richard Harris is Richard the Lionhearted. And in her long-awaited return to the screen, Audrey Hepburn is Marian.
No more scars, Robin. It's too much to lose you twice.
I've never kissed a member of the clergy. Would it be a sin?
Hasn't there been enough for one day?
I won't be long. I'll meet you back at camp.
Don't go.
I just want to look, see who's hunting me.
King was generous. Sends a message. He wants Robin's head.
Oh, mine.
He can sit out there forever. He can't put a forest under siege.
Well?
Well, that's how I see it. If he comes in, we've got him.
Chuck,
We stay here. The man's mad.
You haven't asked what I think.
He's out there, Marian. He expects me.
I think one madman's enough.
I knew you'd come. Of all men. Just for you. I know.
This is the return of the spectacle and glory of another age, of heroes who are bigger than life and villains who are more than evil. The return of a great star, Audrey Hepburn, but most of all, Robin and Marian, is the return of romance.
I love you more than sunlight, more than flesh or joy. One more day.
For Robin and Marian, love is the greatest adventure of all.
I love you more than God.
Co-starring with
fire, Steve. I mean, that's a great pick, Steve.
It was directed by Richard Lester, who we all know as director of A Hard Day's Night and Help, and of course, Superman 2.
The inferior version of Superman 2.
Superman 2. It was written, this was interesting, I didn't realize this, it was written by James Goldman, who also wrote The Lion in Winter, another terrific film.
Right.
Brother of William Goldman.
Right.
I did not know that.
So he's kind of the Jim Belushi of the Goldman family.
Oh, that's mean.
We should do Goldman Week.
He's the Randy Quaid.
We should do Goldman Week.
Goldman.
The writer
with the golden touch.
For those of you, our listeners who haven't heard of this movie, Robin and Marian refers to Robin Hood and Maid Marian. And it co-stars Sean Connery as Robin Hood.
Here's your chance, Darren.
I'm not going to do any damn voices for you.
Audrey Hepburn plays Maid Marian. Robert Shaw plays the Sheriff of Nottingham. Nicol Williamson plays Little John. Richard Harris plays Richard the Lionheart. Denham Elliott plays Will Scarlet. And Ian Holm plays King John. So it's got this terrific cast of British actors, British superstars. The score was done by the great John Barry, who we all know. And so it was kind of a reunion of sorts. You have Sean Connery re-teaming with his co-star from Russia with Love, Robert Shaw, and also with John Barry, who, of course, did a lot of music for the Bond films.
The train fight in the film seemed a little bit out of place, though.
And when he kept calling, Audrey Hepburn old man, that made no sense.
Yeah.
But you Traps and Smash call each other.
And the director of photography is a beautifully shot film. It was David Watkin, who also did Out of Africa, Chariots of Fire, The Devils, and Return to Oz. And what I thought was really interesting about this movie is that it's kind of an early example of postmodern film. And what I mean by that is postmodernism is in film is hallmarked by things like homage and pastiche and a sort of meta self-reflexivity that kind of relies on an audience's knowledge of the material. And so here you have a film that focuses on that's become kind of a common, kind of a staple of storytelling in the years since, where you take iconic characters that you all know very well from classic stories and put them in a different time period in their lives.
Thank you, Professor.
And in this case, you have, you're picking up Robin Hood and Maid Marian when they're in their late 40s. And Robin Hood is returns to England after spending 20 years fighting for Richard the Lionheart in the Crusades and later in France. And he returns back to Sherwood Forest and reunites with some of his old gang, with Little John and Friar Tuck and the gang.
And it feels so good.
and it's fun to see, here are these guys that you'd seen in many other films over the years, swinging from vines and trees and jumping on horses and doing all kinds of sword fighting heroics. And they're kind of these late middle-aged guys that are, they're a little creaky. They get winded when they fight and
sounds familiar.
Run. Yeah. They're stiff.
Imagine if they had a podcast.
And I don't think they need to imagine.
And they sort of realize that you can go home again, but you can't go home again. Things have changed. And but some things didn't change, because Robin is still very much in love with Maid Marian. He discovers that she's still alive and seeks her out. And she is surprised to see that he's still alive. And
Gordon's alive.
The relationship goes from there. And of course, the old rivalry returns when, of course, the Sheriff of Nottingham, their old foe, is also still alive under the reign of a new king, the bad King John, who is looking to clamp down on their shenanigans. So
he's the Dean Wormer. He's
totally the Dean Wormer.
Listening to your professorial treatise, I was thinking we should have on the show, we should have the Professor Kingsfield movie minute, where Professor Kingsfield gives us a little tutorial. It's like he no longer teaches law; he's now teaching film, and he can give us a little bit of professorial insight into a movie. What do you think of that, Darren?
I think that's an atrocious idea. And I think that you're not going to do very well here. You watch the films yourself, but we train your mind. You come here with your skulls full of mush, and you leave thinking like a critic.
It stinks.
Well, that's a great way to start us off, Robin and Marian. And unexpected, I would say.
It wasn't unexpected by me, because it was my choice. But
it was my choice.
What?
Hey guys,
is that right?
Why don't you just do Robin and Marian week and go home?
Can I tell you something?
Was it your choice?
This week, I'm going to be Steve Melching this week. I've never seen it.
Wow.
I need to see it. I mean, after hearing, well, first of all, the fact that all three of you have seen it, I haven't seen it. There's something seriously wrong with that. But secondly, after hearing Steve talk about it, I love everything about it.
He used a lot of very expensive words.
It's streamable. I believe it's on HBO Max.
I will absolutely either buy it on iTunes or watch it on HBO
like
Max.
a $4 rent on
It's the one that doesn't have Bugs Bunny in it.
Yeah, that doesn't have Bugs Bunny in it.
No, but it's a movie that I saw back in my college days because I'd read about it back in the 80s. And I seem to recall somebody comparing Frank Miller's Dark Knight Returns to Robin and Marion, the idea of Batman, a middle-aged Batman or an older Batman coming back.
I think that Dark Knight Returns probably took some leads from that.
Oh, absolutely.
Film.
That's what I mean. Yeah, it was inspired by Robin and Marion. Yeah. And so I watched it on VHS. And, as a 20-year-old kid, I liked it, but I didn't relate to it the way I related to it as revisiting it as a middle-aged.
Now that you know what it's like to kind of, have to huff and puff a little bit when you run and, get into a sword fight with a dude.
Now that I make a sound every time I stand up.
Yeah.
That's another week. Movies that we revisited that we didn't love when we were younger, but that we have more appreciation for now.
Yeah.
How are we going to fit that onto the marquee?
It's called 4:30 Movie 2, The Return.
Just don't call it the best of the 4:30 movie, or somebody's going to think it's a
It's a rerun.
Yeah, but man, oh my God, the week after that Batman episode we did was huge. And by the way, did you see that wonderful mashup this week where they took the Batman trailer and put Adam West in it?
Yeah, Corridor Visual Effects did one of their YouTube posts. And it's amazing.
It's so much fun.
They put Adam West into the Batman trailer, and it's a lot of fun.
I want to see the whole movie.
Some of the lazy snark about Adam West and Batman, but
totally. The millennial hordes really jumped on this one, and it's it's expected, but still disappointing.
Yeah, people don't realize that the brilliance of the satire in and the performance by everyone. And that it was working at such a high level. Yeah. But, now, it's just, dismiss it. It's super goofy and campy, but, without realizing the genius that was that show.
They'll find out when they have kids.
But it's really great. If you haven't seen it, it's about 90 seconds. Yeah. But it feels like a full meal. And it's really fun, and the reveal of the Riddler is just fantastic.
Look, the reveal of everything is fantastic.
Yeah, the Penguin, the whole car chase, and the way they integrated the Batmobile.
The original 66 Batmobile making its appearance is so cool.
Have you seen this yet, Ashley?
I haven't. I'm very excited.
Oh my God. It's on the internet.
Okay. Yeah, you've heard of that.
Streamable on the interwebs?
Yeah, it's really good. By the way,
right after Robin and Marion.
I forgot to mention, I don't know how I forgot to mention this. When we did 420 week, I didn't mention in college, my roommate, freshman and sophomore year, was the biggest stoner. Because he was from California. Of course, I was going to school in Boston, but he'd come from San Clemente, California. It was like this surfer dude, beach bum guy. And he was this huge, it was like, boy, talk about oil and water, but we got along great. But man, he was like Spicoli. He literally was like Spicoli. And I listened to that episode. I'm like, how did I not mention this guy? Anyway.
Maybe you were blocking it out of your mind.
I might have been. So, okay. Robin and Marion is Steve's pick for Monday, which brings us to Tuesday. Guys. Now, Darren's going to have to do a little dancing because as we just heard, Robin and Marion was his pick for Tuesday. So watch it again.
That's true, but I'm good at dancing. I'm juggling a couple of them because, of course, there are many selections that you could have. I think I'm going to go with the Darren classic and go for the musical from 1964, George Cukor directing My Fair Lady.
You see this creature with her curbstone English that'll keep her in the gutter till the end of her days?
Ew, what's that you say?
In 6 months, I'll make a duchess of this draggle-tailed gutter snipe.
You expect me to get into that? How do you do?
How do you do?
So you came here to rescue her from worse than death, eh?
Cheerio, Eliza.
The rain in Spain stays mainly in the plain.
I think she's got it.
I could have danced all night. I could have danced all night. I could have danced, danced, danced.
starring Audrey Hepburn, Rex Harrison, and a cast of 1,000 Cockney singers. It's, look, if you like musicals, you will love this. If you don't like musicals, you'll probably be a little out of sorts, but give it a chance, because it's certainly one of the biggest sort of Broadway-based musical extravaganzas that Hollywood offered. It's very stagey in terms of when you watch it. It's like watching the stage play. It doesn't really go out of bounds of something that could be done on a stage. But an interesting note is that they recorded most of certainly Rex Harrison's live talk singing live on set. He had a microphone hidden in his suit, and they recorded it live, which gives it an immediacy, which is really cool. And when you watch it, you will see that he couldn't have dubbed that. He couldn't have dubbed that to live playback. So
I prefer him in Dr. Dolittle.
Oh my goodness! No, you don't.
I don't.
No one does. Of course, My Fair Lady is the story of Eliza Doolittle, who is a street urchin, basically a flower girl who lives life basically on the streets in the lower sections of London, and she comes into the view of Professor Henry Higgins, who is a linguist and a professor. Obviously, because that's why they call him Professor Henry Higgins.
He's kind of a... No, Ashley, don't say it. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, he's not like that. I mean, he certainly doesn't start out that way. She's more of a curiosity to him. And he literally wants to see if he can pass her off as a society lady. And he has a bet with, Buck Rogers, Dr.
Dr. Theopolis?
No. No, from the
Dr. Ewer?
No.
Oh, Buck, my boy.
Wilfred Hyde White. Wilfred Hyde White.
Yeah, Wilfred Hyde White, playing Colonel Pickering. They have a gentleman's bet. It's kind of like Trading Places. And
without Jamie Lee Curtis.
Right. But Audrey Hepburn is playing Jamie Lee Curtis without any topless scenes. But that's fine, because look, the musical is by Lerner and Lowe, and so many recognizable tunes. You may not know them offhand, but you'll certainly recognize your parents listening to them, perhaps, or even your great grandparents, perhaps. I don't know.
Yeah, I think My Fair Lady would have been a lot better without the music. Oh, wait, that's Pygmalion.
Yeah, that's and that's a Woody Allen joke, and I know it is.
Good for you. Good for you.
I'm working on getting the rights to My Fair Lady and taking out all the music and turning it back into Pygmalion. Or the sequel, Pygmalions.
Bravo, Darren.
But look, it's one of my favorites. We actually performed My Fair Lady in high school, and I was in the pit orchestra. The lead was an address, yes.
Oh, okay. I thought you were.
I wasn't.
You didn't play Eliza Doolittle?
I did not.
Okay.
You played all the parts.
I played the E-flat clarinet. And it was a lot of fun. The music is great, and the movie is pretty good. I mean, if in terms of a adaptation of a stage musical, it's pretty good. It's not the greatest, but it certainly is lavish, and
that's Muhammad Ali.
They spared no expense. Warner Brothers really put their all into this one. So, and of course, Audrey Hepburn did not sing for herself in this. She was dubbed by the famous secret singer Marnie Nixon.
Marnie Nixon?
No, different one.
I got the mustard out.
You got the mustard out. She was dubbed by Richard Nixon. I could have danced all night. But it's it's one of those things that you're either going to love it or you're not going to like it. So try it. It's fun.
That's great. And it's available on 4K now too. It was recently put out on 4K. Yeah, look, that's a great pick. And I'm so glad, we have to have at least one of her musicals represented, of course, because these were huge films in the 60s. Big successes, love for the studio. And this was at a time where, big musicals like Sound of Music could make a studio, whereas, some of the failures could destroy a studio. And we saw it with Fox,
and
with their
Dolly.
Bad Run and Hello Dolly and a bunch of other
Hello Dolly,
Wagon.
Goodbye Fox.
yeah. Goodbye Century City. Yeah, exactly. So it really, really great choice. It's probably her best musical. I mean, some would say Funny Face, but I think
this is better than Funny Face.
Yeah, I think so too.
I'm not a particular fan of musicals, but I do like this one, and the cast is great. She and Rex Harrison are great in it in this Pygmalion story, and it is a long movie though. Maybe
yes, it is.
It's almost 3 hours long. Maybe a bit too long, but
and the third act where like she has to save everybody from the flood inside the arena.
No, the third act where she has to go to Sicily after. No, Steve. Now you got to go.
Sorry.
And come on, third act. In the third act.
Come on, Steve.
What?
It's your turn.
When she sells the frog's legs.
Oh,
Kermie.
Whoa.
Oh, the Muppet My Fair Lady.
Oh, the rain in Spain falls mainly under the Rainbow Connection. Okay.
I just realized I forgot to mention in the intro of Audrey Hepburn, she is an EGOT winner.
Yes,
she has won the Emmy, the Grammy, the Oscar, and the Tony.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's interesting. Actually.
One of only a handful of people that have accomplished that feat.
So if you don't win the Tony, are you just the ego winner?
Yes,
that's pretty great.
And if you don't win the Emmy, you just got.
You win the Tony, the Oscar, and the Emmy. Are you the toe winner?
Yes, you are.
Okay. On that note, what a great pick for Tuesday from Daren Dochterman, the classic musical, My Fair Lady. Is there an intermission? I don't remember.
I think there is.
Yeah, there must be at that.
I think there is.
Lunch.
But I don't know. Like that's what the Run P app is for.
Well, back then they didn't have the Run P app.
That's too bad.
No, you just peed in the seats.
And we liked it that way.
They gave you a dime. Call your mother. Okay, so that brings us to Wednesday and Ashley Edward Miller. And this should be interesting because, as you know, Wednesday is a notoriously surprising, offbeat, strange day, usually in the hands of Mr. Miller. And we'll see what he comes up with.
Well, I'm in a bit of a pickle because, a couple of weeks ago, Tuesday was Wednesday. This week, Monday is Wednesday. Just fine.
Tonight, Monday is Wednesday.
On the 4:30 movie.
I will say that, look, she is amazing in literally everything that she does, right? It's like you look at her filmography, you throw a dart, and if she's in it, no matter what else you think of the movie, you will find her incredible. Or as we like to say on this podcast, luminous. It will be worth
different
the
kind
watch.
of luminous. It's a real luminous. We've turned luminous into a joke and a kind of punchline for every.
But she's real.
But she's really luminous.
She is, when we talk about somebody being a star, that's what we mean. Mm-hmm. Because her charisma is it's an 11. It's just an 11. And she is so credible in almost anything she does, almost any genre. Although obviously, we most associate her with romantic stories, and for really good reasons. But she's just a great, great actress. Here's my problem. So I know there is no chance I'm going to step on Mark because I know with metaphysical certitude.
Yeah, you do.
Mark is going to pick on Thursday.
Yeah, I think we all
a few times.
It's written down in front of me.
Yeah.
We should all say it in unison, like in stereo.
And I won't even try and pull a fast one because I literally cannot do that. It'd be impossible.
Which leaves me with with 2 choices. But you know what? This is, of course, God damn it. This is our 5th season.
Yeah, it's our 5th season.
Our 5th season where like everything is back on the table.
Everything's back, baby.
And I want to go back to a pick that I made a few years ago, a few seasons back. And
good choice.
I made it almost off the cuff to undo another pick.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not sure that I gave this pick quite the love that it deserves, nor the adoration that I have for it in my heart.
For Love Story Week.
Yeah, exactly. It was for Love Story Week. And I replaced my original pick of The Empire Strikes Back with this. Blake Edwards, 1961, based on a novella by Truman Capote, Breakfast at Tiffany's.
If I could find a real life place like Tiffany's, then I'd buy some furniture and give the cat a name.
Tiffany's? You mean the jewelry store?
Don't you just love it?
Love what?
Tiffany's. I do believe love is found Andy Hardy. I'd marry you for your money in a minute. You marry me for my money?
In a minute.
To see the world, there's such a lot of world to see.
People don't belong to people. I'm not gonna let anyone put me in a cage.
I don't want to put you in a cage. I want to love you.
Hi.
Hi.
What you doing?
This is a movie that I have to say, like, in all honesty, took me completely by surprise. I saw it for the first time at exactly the right point in my life. And by that, I mean, I was a grown ass man. I wasn't.
I didn't know you were an ass man.
I know I'm an it's like, I wasn't like, I didn't accidentally see it like on TV with like my parents. What is that? I didn't watch it when I was in college trying to figure out, okay, now I'm being a sort of an erudite, like pseudo-intellectual. Fuck it. I saw it because I wanted to go see it. And I saw it in the best possible way. AFI kind of doing one of their revivals. So I got to see it on the big screen. I got to see her. I got to experience it the way that it was meant to be experienced as a film in the theater. No Run P app, none of that. It's just this. First and foremost, it's an amazing, beautiful, funny, sad, but ultimately kind of very uplifting in a bittersweet way story. It's about people. George Papard is in this, and you'll remember him. He's Hannibal Lecter.
The real reason you saw the movie, you were a huge Hannibal Lecter fan, and you heard George Papard was in it, and you had to go.
Yeah, exactly. I knew George,
but he loves it when a plan comes together.
It's the same reason you saw DC Cab.
That's because BA's in it. I pity the fool. George Papard is in it. He's her co-star. But it's about people trying to be something different from what they're afraid that they are, and continually disappointing themselves. But in the end, discovering that person that they've been lying to has been telling a lot of the same lies all along. And the things that we find out about Holly Golightly, who is one of the great film characters, in my opinion, in one of my favorite films of all time, it's just, she's just a marvelously drawn character in every way. The dialogue in this movie is perfect. The comic timing in this movie is perfect. the costuming, everything. Like there's nothing that I look at this and I'm like, you know, they didn't bring their A game on that or this or whatever. I mean,
really, nothing.
There's nothing. There are people who I think will go, well, there is one thing. There is one thing that I think like does not quite stand the test of time. And certainly you couldn't do it today, is Mickey Rooney.
Yeah.
But
I mean, even then it was appalling.
Yeah, no, 100%. That part is. But when I kind of like mentally,
you blocked that off into its own
part out, right? Because
isolation. You have to. I mean, anyone who doesn't go to see this movie because they're offended by Mickey Rooney
is stupid.
I mean, they're missing out. I mean, let's be honest. And
we should say offended what role Mickey Rooney is playing and how he's playing it.
The reality is, if it was made this year, of course, it would be unacceptable and deservedly so.
Yeah. And nobody would do it.
And nobody would do it, right? But the fact is, you know, this was made in 1961 when this kind of thing was, you know, commonplace, and it doesn't dismiss. You know, it doesn't. You can't dismiss this brilliant, wonderful gem of a film because of this casting.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, you just can't.
No, you can't. It's just. You have to go into this. Honestly, like you don't have to go into this with anything except just the expectation that the time that you spend will be well spent. That you can trust these actors led by this director saying these words to emotionally transport you and have an impact on you and make you feel differently. Honestly, about yourself than you did before you sat down, you know, to watch it for the first time. So if you have not seen it yet, I envy you because hopefully you're listening to us, and you're going to find it. It will be easy to find, and you're going to watch it and you're going to tweet back, holy crap, thank you.
Has that great score from Henry Mancini.
Oh my Henry Mancini's score is awesome.
Well, but did you know that Moon River was wider than a mile? That's pretty wide.
That's a pretty damn
Did you know Moon River was there until September 13th, 1999, and it was gone?
That's right.
That's right. Until it was blown out of a river.
But the fact of the matter is, this is a remarkable, wonderful, charming, incredible movie made during the height of the Hays Code was still production code was still a thing. So when you really think about it, it's pretty amazing that this got made, you know, based on the book by Truman Capote.
The story itself is so timely to now that it's unbelievable. Because, a lot of people who are leading these lifestyles are very out in the open now, and it is big time.
Yeah, you could do it, remake it with influencers
totally
and Instagram
do it right now.
model and all that kind of stuff. But you just wouldn't cast Mickey Rooney as with Buck D.
Maybe Joseph Wiseman.
Yeah.
But the rest of it would totally work and totally feel relevant.
Current, absolutely.
And that opening shot on Fifth Avenue of her coming home, doing the walk of shame past Tiffany's. Oh, it's just gorgeous. It's gorgeous. Isn't it Robert Surtees? Who shot it? I forget who shot it. I might be wrong. I'm probably wrong, actually.
Franz Planer.
Franz Planer. Okay, well, there you go. But it's gorgeously shot.
And we're deliberately not giving you the specifics of the plot and the characters because you need to find that out on your own when you watch the film.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's wonderful. It's so worth it. Spoiler alert, she's not a ghost, but that's the only thing we're going to tell you.
She's a man, baby.
I will
know
happening
in her mind.
I should note that Franz Planer, the director of photography, was actually the DP on several of her films, which leads you to believe that she had a hand in electing him because he made her look great on screen.
And she always looked great. I mean, she was always so sophisticated and, just brilliantly photographed. Great pick. And, you know, it redeems that. I'll never forget that love story. You picked Empire Strikes Back and you finally at the last second changed it to Breakfast at Tiffany's, as well you should. But I'm still waiting for Darren to change Return of the Jedi from 420 week, but I don't think that's going to happen.
Stand by that.
But what a great pick. Which brings us to Thursday. And, you know, it's funny because, you know, you picked sort of a meta movie with Steve on Monday. You picked, you know, one of her classic musicals, you know, and then, you know, Ashley picked one of her great, I don't even know if I call it a romantic comedy. It's not really a romantic comedy. Even her romantic comedies had a lot more going on. You can't trivialize them by calling them romantic comedy. And I have to say, you know, I'm a huge Billy Wilder fan. So I came, and Bogart fan, and William Holden fan. So I came very close to not going with the expected pick and picking Sabrina. I'm also a fan, and I'm not going to say what it is. We'll talk about it on Friday, of what Steve alluded to, her first breakthrough film, which is also a marvel, which is on par with Breakfast at Tiffany's in terms of just being this incredible romance. But we all know what I'm going to pick because it is, growing up, probably it was my favorite movie of all time. It alternated with North by Northwest. And
actually, look at the cameras.
And the game show.
You can see this or not, but there's my wiki page.
Yeah, and of course I'm going to pick Charade.
Do we know each other?
Why do you think we're going to?
I don't know. How would I know?
Because I already know an awful lot of people, and until one of them dies, I couldn't possibly meet anyone else.
Well, if anyone goes on the critical list, let me know.
As you can see, she was in serious trouble. But she still found time to enjoy herself.
Mrs. Lambert, any morning now you could wake up dead.
Of course, she never had as much fun as her husband. Now, he knew how to relax. You see, it all began when he got off the train. Now there's a relaxed husband.
Police probably think I killed him.
Instant divorce, you mean?
From then on, her life was one round of enjoyment. Entertainment. Enchantment?
What are you doing in here?
I'm having a nervous breakdown.
But her life wasn't always that gay. There were times when she was in dire jeopardy. Hasn't it occurred to you that I'm having a tough time keeping my hands off you? Oh, you should see your face.
What's the matter with it?
It's lovely.
Because I love Charade. I love it. It's one of my favorite movies of all time. Has two of my favorite actors of all time. The great Cary Grant, the great Walter Matthau, the great Audrey Hepburn. You know, and she basically, as those who may remember, her estranged husband is killed and disappears, returning to Paris. And now the great James Coburn comes. These three mysterious strangers come looking because they think that she knows where this fortune in money is, and the FBI approaches her and needs their help, her help.
From the director of Seven Brides for Seven Brothers.
Yeah, I mean, Stanley Donen, who directed with Gene Kelly Singing in the Rain, who also replaced John Barry as the director of Saturn III. But this is his, this and obviously Singing in the Rain are his triumphs. A lot of people have made the mistake of thinking this movie was directed by Hitchcock because it's such a suspenseful nail biter and Cary Grant stars in it. It's not a Hitchcock film, but it's not wrong to say it's the greatest Hitchcockian thriller ever made.
So it can also be picked for I Can't Believe It's Not Hitch Week.
That's right. Yeah.
That's right. I Can't Believe It's Not Hitch. It also has a great twist ending, which I'm not going to ruin here. Another great Henry Mancini score. And Audrey Hepburn is
Henry Mancini score.
Well, not Life Force. Life Force is great. Best thing about the movie is his score for that. Yeah, there've been bad Henry Mancini scores, I'm sure. I can't think of any offhand though. But Audrey Hepburn is spectacular in it. You know, even she, at the same time, she's terrified, but she's also more competent and more in charge than the men. And she starts to figure things out. And
as people know, the names in the movie have resonated for me and it's just George Kennedy is great. Long before he became a punchline in movies like Airplane and Airport and all that other stuff and TV commercials for dog food or whatever he did. I don't remember what George Kennedy do. Probably every drug pharmaceutical under the sun.
The Poseidon Adventure.
But no, I'm not talking about movies. I'm talking about like he did these commercials that were awful.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So, but it's such
Shelley Winters.
But I just love Charade. It was a no-brainer. You won't hear me rattle off 900 films this week because, from the second we decided to do Audrey Hepburn week here on the 4:30 movie, I knew what my pick was. It wasn't going to be hard to know, as evidenced by all three of you knowing exactly the film that I picked
and leaving you space for it. I mean, I love this movie as well, like very, very much. It's another one that I saw for the first time on the big screen. I don't know why. I just kept getting lucky that way. In fact, it's to do the 7 Degrees of Kevin Bacon, in this case, Cary Grant, To Catch a Thief, I saw for the first time on the big screen. But it's a totally terrific, beautiful movie. And it's a strange thing to say. Like, the costuming is really great, and here's how you know, because I can still picture her in that red coat. I tell you what, man, like, I wonder if it's actually possible for a costumer to do a bad job with Audrey Hepburn.
She had the greatest French designers in the world, dressing her for these movies. Like, I think this was Givenchy. I don't know how you pronounce it, but
Burgess Meredith.
Jessica Pottermaker. But I mean, she had the greatest designers in the world, usually doing her wardrobe. And I mean, she's so stylish. It's, in this movie. And obviously there's a big age disparity between her and Cary Grant, but there's a big age disparity between her and most of her movies.
Well, that was, age discrepancies like that were very common until more recent years.
And who wouldn't fall in love with Cary Grant? I mean, Cary Grant was...
I don't think I would.
Well, okay, fair enough. But
I'm trying to remember. I think I might have seen this movie for the first time at your apartment, Mark. I feel like maybe you had some people over and we watched it on Laserdisc or something.
Yes.
That happened. Or it might have been at your house.
Maybe.
When you used to do, because you would do like Buried Treasures and theme weeks and stuff. And, we obviously did Planet of the Apes week, which we did at night.
Before there was the 4:30 movie, it was Steve's apartment screening day.
In Silver Lake, right? Yeah. Because we watched all 6 Planet of the Apes movies in one day. Talk about going ape.
Yeah.
And, but we did a lot of these, a
lot of guilty pleasures or hidden treasures or various themes.
Yeah, I never get tired of watching this movie. Criterion put out a great Blu-ray of this a couple of years ago. There was an awful remake that Jonathan Demme did called The Truth About Charlie, which is not worth watching, which I'm sad to say. I'm a big fan of Jonathan Demme, but that was not one of his better films.
You can't improve on perfection.
Well, there was a time where I thought you could remake Charade with George Clooney and Julia Roberts or Catherine Zeta-Jones, but back in the 90s. But now there's no one who could be Cary Grant and Audrey Hepburn. It'd be like Ben Affleck and Jennifer Lopez, and you'd be like, want to shoot yourself. So
that works.
I mean, it's like there's no one who could capture the magic that they had.
No, think about that. What you just said. Think about that for a second. Like Cary Grant and Audrey Hepburn. Like, you just does not get more iconic than that on either side of the movie. It's just. It didn't even strike me until then.
Tom Hanks is Jimmy Stewart, give or take, right? But there is no Cary Grant. George Clooney, people said it, but he never, he wasn't interested in being Cary Grant. He was interested in directing. He had his moments like in Out of Sight, in Ocean's 11, where there's Cary Grant-ish, but there's no Cary. There's one Archibald Leach. And then there's...
There's one Archie Leach, and he's in the Wanda, but
and not even someone like Harrison Ford, because as big a star he is, he just doesn't have that same charm that.
Well,
Cary
people
Grant.
have compared him to Bogart. That's why it's so weird when he was not well cast in Sabrina,
right?
Even though he was compared to Bogart, it's just
the difference is Harrison Ford doesn't look like he's having fun.
Right.
Yeah, that's true.
Right.
Even when
Cary Grant did.
Yeah, that's the thing. Cary Grant has this puckishness about him, but it's also not like the Roger Moore puckishness where you feel like he's kind of sitting outside the movie.
Plus, Cary Grant was game for anything. He would do stuff like Operation Petticoat and I Was a Male War Bride, and then when you think about him, look at him in Gunga Din, how much fun he is in Gunga Din. I mean, again, this is another guy who could do anything. I mean, whether it's the Philadelphia Story or, in Bring Up Baby, where he's like, completely geeky. I mean, it was just, he's just, when they say they don't make him like this anymore, I mean, they don't make him like this anymore.
It's simply not possible.
Well, they may make them, but they don't hire them anymore.
No. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, that's my pick for Thursday.
I think it's
Stanley Donen's Saturn 3.
This is a great week so far.
This is an amazing week. So that brings us to Friday.
The problem with Friday is that there's too many good things that we can put in it.
Yeah. War and Peace.
Well, that is one of them.
Lead with Wait Until Dark.
You mentioned before Sabrina.
Yeah.
Sabrina is a marvelous movie.
Yes.
And even though Bogey is sort of miscast, he gives it his all, and he's very it's very heartbroken a story for him, and it's really well done. It's a true love story of missed opportunities and wrong choices, and it's so great.
And it has that great Billy Wilder humor, but at the same time, it's kind of dark and a little,
Yeah. And the remake was well-intentioned, but it just didn't cut it.
Yeah.
And that's not anyone's fault.
But, because Julia Ormond was good, Harrison Ford's good, Greg Kinnear's good. It just, Sidney Pollack was great, but it's just
not the same.
It's not the same.
It can't capture that chemistry.
The alchemy is not there.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, that's why I think it was a year or two ago we did Christmas gifts. And, I think I gifted you with Terrence Young's Wait Until Dark, which is a great thriller.
Mm-hmm. Audrey Hepburn, the role you're going to remember whenever you're alone.
You behind the door. She's alone, Stick. It still don't move.
She is blind, and she is alone, with a terrible suspicion growing.
Gloria, I know you're
there. You went right down the list and told me that the doll linked Sam and Mrs. Rote. And now Mrs. Rote's dead, murdered right next door.
But maybe I was wrong.
That doesn't matter. If you thought that way, the police will think that way. Well,
And the reason I suggest that is because we've done a different genre for every day, but we haven't. Yeah. Well, I guess you could say Charade was a thriller, but Charade has a lot of humor and romance in it as well. Wait Until Dark does not have romance.
It's so genre splitting. It's incredibly well done, and the performances are spot on, perfect.
And particularly her, because so much of the weight of that movie falls on her shoulders. And it asks things of her that aren't asked of her in the other films I think that we've talked about. And it just really, to me, it's why I love Wait Until Dark as the Friday pick, because I think it just kind of completes the picture of who Audrey Hepburn was as a performer and what she could do.
She was the original Riddick. In the dark, she could fight. I mean, plus, how great is Alan Arkin and Richard Crenna in that movie?
I gotta tell you, he does pretty well.
And it's Terrence Young's last great movie, because it has that kind of what he brought to From Russia with Love.
Yeah.
I mean, that tight nail biter, of a thriller. It's so great.
Even though I don't think it should be Friday, we do have to mention her last film, Steven Spielberg's Always, which is a remake of a movie called A Guy Named Joe.
Just called it Never.
Huh? Yeah. Well, that's kind of what it turned out to be.
Yeah, it's not a good movie.
It's sort of a clean miss because it's. I don't think the casting works very well. Richard Dreyfuss is kind of goofy and.
For 10 seconds there, I almost Hunter is Wednesday, and then I was like, no, Wednesday is off concept, not just sucks.
But Audrey Hepburn plays an angel in one scene, basically.
Yeah.
And, it's basically just there so they can say, oh, and we have Audrey Hepburn here.
And also, look, you're Steven Spielberg and you're thinking, oh, I have a chance. I can have a scene where I get to direct Audrey Hepburn. You're goddamn right you do. Because deep down in places you don't like to talk about at parties, you want Audrey Hepburn on that wall. You need Audrey Hepburn on that wall.
Well, it's funny because for those of us, who liked 1941, this was Spielberg's first miss. He's had a bunch since then, but this was like the first time I saw a Spielberg movie and was like, that wasn't very good. And I hadn't had that experience yet because I liked 1941 and everything else he did was brilliant. So, it was interesting. And I've only seen it once. I saw it Christmas Day back in 1989 and never saw it again.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. But she is still luminous, not quite so well photographed as she has been before, but, that's not her fault.
Yeah. I'm sure, Steve, you must have a bunch of picks you want to
There's one of the first Audrey Hepburn films that I remember seeing in its entirety, and this was on the big screen, was A Nun's Story from 1959, which is a drama directed by Fred Zinnemann, which also stars Peter Finch. I remember, I haven't seen it since I was in college, but I remember being pretty impressed by it at the time, and I've been meaning to revisit it. She was nominated for an Oscar for that performance, and I remember it being a solid movie.
And of course, there's The Diary of Anne Frank, which is an important movie, but not necessarily a great movie.
She also had a very small role in one of the Ealing comedies, The Lavender Hill Mob. But it's nothing to write home about.
I like Roman Holiday, but
I love Roman Holiday.
But it feels a little bit like a sketch for things that she would do better elsewhere.
Yeah, but I almost feel you're not giving it its due, and I'm not saying it should be Friday.
No, believe me, I don't want to cast aspersions on it. I'm just saying that, like, in the graded on the curve of like what we're talking about, like, it doesn't feel like Friday to me.
But I mean, Gregory Peck is so great in it. She's so great in it. And it's kind of one of these tropes that's been done now a million times since. But like, this was like the first time, the princess who wants to be a real girl for a weekend before, she'll never get out of the castle. So she wants to go see what real life is like. And then just keeps getting into more and more trouble. And it's very funny and it's very charming. And of course, there's the famous scene where Gregory Peck puts his hand and, looks like it's being chopped off. It's like the box in Dune. It's like the only thing missing was the Betty Gestures.
Bad and fail.
But it's a wonderful movie, but I understand the resistance to it. This is another movie I need to see. I don't know if Steve's seen it. Peter Bogdanovich's They All Laughed, which I've never seen.
No, I have not
seen it.
I need to see that.
They're going to laugh at you.
Because, of course, this is famously one of the movies that, his late career films that's gotten reappraised over the years. And, I'd like to like to see it, but I haven't seen it. I think from what I've heard, it would make this week, but something we should. I think it's hard to find.
Yeah, that's one I would love to see if they ever did like a Bogdanovich festival somewhere at the Cinematheque. But unfortunately, the Cinematheque seems less interested these days in highlighting lesser seen films and programming movies that will attract large audiences.
Yeah, that's why I think the Academy at this point is doing more with lesser seen movies, but even they're still doing like sort of big movies. That's the great thing about the New Beverly is that I don't know if they really care about making money. Like they'll show a very eclectic stuff, but they tend to lean more for the exploitation and B movie, and less of the classics.
Now that they're going to be programming the Vista Theater as well, maybe there's more opportunity for more a greater variety.
Yeah. But I could see them doing like a Peter Bogdanovich at the New Beverly, and because Quentin was such a huge fan, and it really is all from his library. So, that's why I think there's certain blind spots in that library, films that he wouldn't show because he doesn't own prints of them. And I think they're still only showing film prints, which also limits what they can show.
You didn't say his library had blind spots when I was looking at it.
I don't see any blind spots.
But I love this Wait Until Dark idea. As much as we all love Sabrina,
I'd go along with Wait Until Dark.
Yeah, and it just fills out the week so nicely. And I think we have to do Wild About Wilder week because, that could easily fall into a Billy Wilder week.
Totally.
Oh, yeah.
I love that. What I love most about kind of picking Wait Until Dark is that when I think about the lineup that we have for this week, and this is not like fake hype bullshit. I genuinely think that making that the capper would make this like truly like one of the best weeks we ever picked.
I agree. Great. There's no Cloak and Dagger. There's no, no, in all seriousness, this is one of the great weeks we've done. No question. And I'm going to watch Robin and Marian this weekend.
You should.
So, you should. This is a spectacular week. And, I think for a lot of our listeners, because I know a lot of listeners have come over from the Treksperts, our super popular Star Trek podcast, that, may not be familiar with the oeuvre of Audrey Hepburn. Some of our younger listeners who've come to us through the Twitter, through Elon Musk's Twitter. You really owe it to yourself. It's a real treat to look at some of these films because I think they'll really take you by surprise. And Audrey Hepburn, again, remarkable actress, remarkable humanitarian, and also, I'm glad that we got around to doing this week because, boy, that's a really remarkable bunch of films.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Okay, well, we'll be back next week with an all-new theme week.
Are we gonna recap?
I'm getting there.
Okay.
We're going to be back next week with an all-new theme week. But before we do, I want to recap the movies that we've already talked about for this week. And, of course, on Monday, Steve?
Monday is Audrey Hepburn stars in Maid Marian opposite Sean Connery in Robin and Marian.
On Tuesday, Darren Dochterman.
One of the most beloved musicals of all time, Audrey Hepburn in My Fair Lady.
On Wednesday, Ashley Edward Miller.
And I said, what about Breakfast at Tiffany's? 1961, Blake Edwards. Awesome.
On Thursday, it's a hunt for missing millions. Well, it's actually not millions. It's a hunt for missing money in Paris. Audrey Hepburn and Cary Grant star in Charade, a most dangerous game. And on Friday, Terrence Young and the one that started it all. Wait
until dark.
And of course, its sequel, Wait Until Light.
Wait Until Dark was a key element in the game that my friends and I used to play of stringing movie titles together.
Oh, is that right?
We had Talk Radio, Days of Heaven, Can Wait Until Dark, Victory at Sea, and Love Story of Oh Lucky Man on Firestarter.
Oh, that's funny. Well, TCM just did their big festival here, and I wish I had seen Warren Beatty had spoken about having Can Wait. I would have liked to have seen that. More than I would have wanted to see Spielberg talk about E.T., honestly, to be honest. I mean, I love E.T., but I feel like I've heard him talk about it. Like, I haven't heard Warren Beatty talk much about...
But they're lies, Senator. All lies.
Hey, and a very happy birthday to our favorite Star Trek fan, Al Pacino. Turns 30 today, so congratulations to Michael.
The Screaming Al.
Ooh-ah.
Did you want to plug the screening series that's coming up at the?
Oh yeah, thanks for reminding me, Steve. So apparently, we're helping out at the American Cinematheque. We'll be doing a tribute to the films of 1982, and we're going to preview some footage from our upcoming documentary about the greatest geek year ever. And they're showing some spectacular movies both at the Arrow and that theater in
Los Feliz 3.
Los Feliz, yeah, and. Really great stuff, including films that have been featured prominently on the 430 movie, like Conan the Barbarian, Fast Times at Ridgemont High, and many others. So Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan. So you might want to check that out. And who knows, you might even run into one of us down there, or four of us. Who knows?
Well, you can also run into Mark on a scooter in Las Vegas, which is also...
Oh, that's a low blow.
Yeah,
I got to admit, I was a little reluctant to even consider going back this year.
You think you're going to see her again? Have an awkward conversation about it?
Pull the plug.
Of course, in the film version, we always see Mark, but there's always a scooter that goes by in the background. Every shot, it's circling him, just waiting.
I got post-traumatic stress.
Business.
Yeah,
I got PTSD, post-traumatic scooter syndrome. Anyway, so this was great. As always, we want to thank Peter Holstrom, our archivist, Zach Raggett, Dally Miscali, producer, and all of you for coming back for another great fantasy theme week here on the 430 movie. So until next week, on behalf of Steve, Darren, Ashley, and myself, Eyewitness News starts now.
This show was produced by Dean Devlin and Mark A. Altman and is an Electric Surge Network production.